The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hello, Dom. Hi, everybody. Nice to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back. And Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well. I'm back from my vacation, folks. You may have missed us last week. We were off another time. We missed an episode early this month because of the holiday, and then I took my family to Gettysburg, where we sweltered in a tent for a week. So we're back, and I learned.
That's always fun.
Yeah, I learned some actually important technology lessons, which I may bring up in a future episode, where about how to manage your connectivity when you're at a campground and that sort of thing. I had some issues, but in fact, my app. Pick of the week is related to our vacation in Gettysburg. But I'll mention that when we get to there. But before that, I had some technology news related to me. I was the technology news this week.
Dom was a star. He had his 15 minutes
really?
of fame.
Yeah, I got my 15 minutes plus. I think I'm overtime. But so here's what happened. A couple weeks ago, a priest friend of mine, for the 14th Sunday in Ordinary Time, the Liturgy of the Hours, Office of Readings, he posted online a quote by St. Augustine from that. And this is the quote. Augustine says, "Let us never assume that if we live good lives, we will be without sin. Our lives should be praised only when we continue to beg for pardon. But men are hopeless creatures, and the less they concentrate on their own sins, the more interested they become in the sins of others. They seek to criticize, not to correct. Unable to excuse themselves, they are ready to accuse others." And that right there is a challenging quote. It's certainly challenging. We'll put it that way.
Absolutely.
But is it hate speech? Well, Facebook thought so. So my friends had his post taken down by Facebook, and they said we took it down because of hate speech, and he was baffled. And so another priest friend of ours, Father Chip Hines, who's often on the SQPN network, he posted it to see what happened. Same thing happened, and then I said, "All right, I need to get to the bottom of this." So I said, let me try. So I posted it too. And within hours, Facebook had taken it down. And they sent me a notice. Your post goes against our community standards on hate speech. No one else can see your post. We have these standards because we want discussions on Facebook to be respectful. Okay. So then I took a screenshot of that notice from them and I posted that. They took that down. So I wrote a blog post. I'll put a link to my blog post in the show notes, and I talked about it on my podcast that I do with my wife Melanie, Raising the Bets. This was just before I went on vacation. Great timing, so I had to deal with this. And so they had an appeals process. They said, if you think this was wrong, click here, and we'll have a human review it. So obviously this was automated. It's some sort of algorithm. There are billions of posts on Facebook every day. They can't all be reviewed by human beings. So I said, please have a human review it. Well, I waited a few days and it came back and said, nope, the human says it's still hate speech. And I'm thinking, what? So that's when the media got on board. We had some conservative media, Todd Starnes, the radio host and columnist. He posted something on his site. LifeSite posted it. And then PJ Media, The Blaze, Daily Wire. It even got so far as the Times of London on Monday. They posted it. They put something in their paper about it. And eventually, Facebook relented, and because these outlets were contacting them for comment, and they said, "Oh, we made a mistake," and they put it back.
Funny how that works.
So let's talk about the in the first case. The idea of having your content blocked as hate speech. What's the first, like, when this happens? What should someone do when they post something? In fact, today I've seen a few people post some things that have been flagged as hate speech. So let's talk about that first part, and then we'll talk about the problem of, even though the post was taken out of Facebook jail, so to speak, what this means for us on the long term. So, your first reactions, Joanne. What is your first reaction on hearing this?
My first reaction is that I'm totally baffled by all of this, because I kept reading the quote over and over again, going, "And what is wrong with this?" Yeah. I can't see anything there that really would jump out. So it's got to be something in the algorithm. Either it's a combination of words or a phrase that they believe is hate speech. But hate speech, to me, would be a little bit more overt than covert.
Right.
So are they looking for both overt and covert? Or are they just looking for the real, in your face stuff? It looks like they're looking for anything that doesn't agree with their bottom line.
Right.
At least that's what I'm seeing. I've had stuff taken down and I can't figure out why either.
That's an important point. I want to come back to that too, because I think that's the most important point in all of this. Father Corey, what was your reaction to when you heard about this?
I kind of like Joanne. It's just like, why? And the only thing I can think of, and you've probably come to the same conclusion, Dom. This could be, you could read this in a certain way to say, well, see, these is the alt-right saying you can't call us racist, you can't call us sexist, you can't call us homophobes, you can't call us transphobes, you can't call us the can't, because you need to look at your own problems first. And that's literally the only way that I can read this, as stupid of a reading as it is, and I don't agree with it. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's the only way that I can read this quote as anything hate speech. And that still isn't even hate speech.
No.
So that's the thing. You might not agree with it. I mean, because there are people on the right who are all those things. There are people on the left who are all those things. There are people in the middle who are all those things. And you can critique that. And the statement doesn't say that. So that's the only thing I could think of.
One of the things a bunch of friends of mine, they tried posting it. Some had it taken down. Some didn't. No one knows why. Some were and some weren't. That's part of the problem, the inconsistency. One of my friends, he pulled out one sentence and posted it, and that got taken down. And it was the sentence, "But men are hopeless creatures." That was flagged as hate speech. And so the only thing we can guess is that it thinks that this is some sort of anti-man, sort of like anti-feminist, a rant, that it's an anti-man rant or of some sort. It's some sort of misandry. But even then, it's bizarre.
Yeah, but if it would have been, "But women are hopeless creatures," I could see, somebody screaming about that.
Right.
But,
exactly.
Just because of our environment. But men are hopeless
calling
creatures.
Someone hopeless,
that doesn't sound. I just think it's one of those overt, covert things. If this looks blatant, we're going to pull it. And even if it smacks of being blatant, we're going to pull it. And I think that's what you're dealing with.
And I think this is the root of the issue here. It's not so much whether Facebook is targeting Christians and Christian beliefs. Perhaps it is. That's one issue. Are they as strong? I don't think this particular quote was about the fact that it was from a Catholic saint. No. I think this had to do with an algorithm just mistaking something, misunderstanding. But I think there are other times and other people who've had statements of pretty standard Orthodox Catholic belief that they stuff right out of the Catechism that has been taken down. But frankly, Facebook has also taken down the Declaration of Independence as hate speech because of some of the language. But I think the big problem here is that Facebook's standards, their community standards, are arbitrary and capricious. And there is no way to tell whether any particular quote you put up, no matter how anodyne, no matter how banal, will fall afoul of the Facebook censors and be put in Facebook jail. That's my big problem with it.
Well, and I would take it even to a higher level. Why exactly is Facebook playing word police? Why is YouTube? Why is Twitter? Why are they having algorithms? And I know the reason, and I disagree with it, and I think it's something that needs to change. But why exactly are they the ones to say this is hate speech? If you think it's hate speech, you block the person and you don't ever look at them again.
Right.
It's that simple.
Right. They have tools.
Right. And I thought we still had a country where we had First Amendment rights to speech.
Well, let's be clear. This is a private company that has created a public space. I get that, and I understand that. There is an issue where these private company owned public spaces have become the public square of today.
Right.
You have the president of the United States talking to the people of America through these systems. I mean, this is no longer, in fact, the Supreme Court, I think recently, or a federal court, has ruled that the president can't block people because he is a public figure.
Politician.
Right. So and in fact, I think there was a couple of congressmen who ran afoul of this too, them blocking people, and that's because we have a new thing here. We have this new entity where our free speech is tied into this public square created by a private company, and that's why I think, as much as I don't like the excess of government regulation, I feel like that maybe we're getting to a point where the FCC or somebody has to step in and say, just like your local news channel does, you are using the public airwaves, and therefore you have to give equal time. Maybe there's some sort of regulation has to come out for this.
A better analogy is, and this is what the tech companies are trying to do. They're trying to maintain that balance where we are a private company that is not responsible for what people write on our platform, so you can't sue us.
Right.
But we are a private company that have the right to censor what is put on our platform.
Right.
They're trying to find that balance. And the better analogy isn't the TV stations, the radio stations. The better analogy is the telephone.
Yeah.
If you picked up the phone right now and called someone and made all kinds of racist, sexist, etc. remarks, Bell Telephone cannot cut your line. They are expressly forbidden by regulation from doing that. They have to allow everyone to use their phones as long as they pay their bills, without any kind of monitoring or blocking. And
if you harass somebody with a phone call, can they cut you off?
No, but but you can be pressed. There are charges that can be pressed against you legally,
and that person could block your number from calling them too.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But Bell Telephone cannot, as far as I know, your regular telephone company cannot cut your phone line unless, of course, you don't pay the bill or whatever.
Is this the landline, or do you know if it's the cell phone?
I believe cell phones fall under the same. Someone who is a communications expert would know better than me, but as far as I know, your cell connection is the same. Now, when you talk about data, that's a different story.
It needs to be updated. Yeah, it
needs to be updated, and that's where I think these organizations, these private companies, I think they probably realize, they probably got lawyers saying we need to be very careful here, because it wouldn't take much for Congress to say, okay, guess what? You guys now are considered public utilities.
Yeah.
And it'd be no different than someone cutting off, oh, you're a racist, so we're going to cut off your water.
Right. There are people who would like to do this. Joanne, what were you going to make a point?
I was going to make a point about, the thing is that we pay for utilities. We pay for phone use. Mm-hmm. We pay for cable and data. We don't pay for Facebook yet. But we don't pay for it. So they're still a company unto themselves. Right. But they still don't make clear to us as community as to what constitutes hate speech, what constitutes, if they had a list of things that said, don't do this, 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 and this, and you still don't follow it, well, then, you should get thrown in Facebook jail or whatever. But we don't even have a list. And if you think everybody's reading all those terms of use, nobody reads the terms of usage anymore. So it could be hidden in there somewhere on page 474.
They do describe what constitutes hate speech, but even that is so broad as to include anything depending on your point of view, which is what it is. I want to go back to something you said. We're not the customer. We're not paying for Facebook, but in some ways we are paying for Facebook and Twitter. We're paying with our attention, our privacy, and I think maybe we need to update some of the ways we view the economic transactions. That our economic transactions with companies, maybe we shouldn't just be about exchange of currency, exchange of money, but could possibly include exchange of our data, our information, our attention. Right. I think, we and Congress right now is holding hearings examining these companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, and even Apple, and looking at what influence they have over us, how much our privacy is violated or used by these companies and not protected. And I think these companies ought to be wary of the government and politicians swooping in saying, you know what, this has gotten out of hand. We're going to do something about it. And frankly, I think maybe something should be done. Maybe it should become clear that this is, maybe Father Corey, I think you're right. I think maybe we should say, if you don't like what someone is saying, you block them, don't look at them, cut them off yourself, but it's not up to these companies to monitor the speech. I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that we don't want to be up at all anyway, like, the obvious stuff, the horrific stuff that shouldn't be allowed to be posted. But
the question, though, is there are laws for that. We have a civil government whose job it is to handle stuff like that.
Right.
That if someone posts something that is doxing, where you release the address and name and everything of a private individual,
right,
for the purpose of attacking them, there are laws against that. If you post a death threat against someone, there's laws against that. If you post hateful speech, there's laws against some of that stuff that you're going to say.
Harassment, stalking.
Why is it Facebook's job? And by the way, I just looked it up. Facebook does have a community standards page, which is a lot. I mean, it reads like a stereo manual. I mean, it's awful.
Like a battalion of lawyers have got down and written it. Yes.
Yes. So, but they do have a specific definition of hate speech, and they define it as a direct attack on people based on what we call protected characteristics, race, ethnicity, et cetera, et cetera. You know, all the different lists they would have. We also provide some protections for immigration status. We define attack as violent or dehumanizing speech, statements of inferiority, or calls for exclusion or segregation.
Okay, so inferiority is hopeless creatures?
Yes, exactly.
Well,
men are hopeless creatures. You're inferior.
Again, that is so broad as to cover potentially anything anyone says, unless it's the most banal, inoffensive statement. Like anything that anyone says that is at all, challenging.
Someone could post, "I hate Doctor Who," and a Brit could get offended and call that hate speech by this definition.
Well, but literally, you said the word hate. Therefore it's hate speech. I mean, this definition is so broad as to, and that's certainly the sort of thing they want to be able to do, is because the lawyer says we need to make this as broad as possible so that we can take down things that could potentially be a liability for us. Lawyers always want, which is their job. They want the broadest ground to work on. They want all the weapons on their side of the battlefield. But this is part of the problem. We can't. It's better for them to not do this at all than to do this badly. Frankly, I think. All right. So, anything else to say on this before we move on, or
just that it's all about the lawyers, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that there is a legitimate concern that in the future, this could be used for far more than it already is. And I think that's the big concern. If you've read anything like Fahrenheit 451, 1984, any of those kind of books, you know where this could lead if it's not watched. And that's why we're raising concern with it.
Yeah. I mean, we've already seen where people are being censored and shut down and blocked from these services, not just having particular posts taken down, but banned from Twitter and Facebook permanently for saying things that are Orthodox Catholic teaching, things about human sexuality, things about the life issues. The fact is, and like I said before, Facebook and Twitter are the public square today. If you're removed from them, you are being handicapped in your ability to communicate with people, and it's only going to get more important to be in these areas in the future, not less. So it is concerning.
And what it'll do, I think, in the long run, is splinter us, because we'll end up having to create something like a Catholic Facebook, in order to talk to our own people who feel like us, and that's just going to splinter society and not bring them together.
It creates silos. Actually, let's talk about that for a second, because that was one of the things people kept telling me in the midst of this is, well, go join MeWe. I think that's how you pronounce it, or there's been some attempts to create Catholic versions of social media. Oh, there was one, Deo Space, DEO.
There was like Awestruck was one that recently folded.
And yeah, they never seem to last. And the problem with a lot of these is nobody's there. I mean, this is the problem is it's the chicken and egg problem. There's nothing going on there until people show up there, but no one will show up there until there's something going on there.
Exactly.
And so all my friends and family are on Facebook. And frankly, I have friends who aren't Catholic. I have family who, being on a Catholic social media network would not interest them. No. I want to stay in contact with them. I want to connect with them. I want to read stuff about things that aren't particularly related to Catholicism, that I don't want to live in a silo. And that's the problem with that. And as you alluded to, so there are alternatives, but it's a lesser situation. It's second class, frankly. Do either of you belong to any of these secondary social networks?
I'm on MeWe, but I don't really look at it very often. I just don't, because I've got friends there and stuff, but I don't really look at it too closely.
Right. Same here.
Yeah, and I barely keep up with Facebook and Twitter.
Exactly.
So that's about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just forget to go check out MeWe, just like I used to forget to check out Google+.
I need to stop promoting my Twitter handle on Let's Talk because I don't look at it anymore. It's so yuck.
I know. I occasionally dip into Twitter, but I quickly, I have to. Like we were saying earlier, I have to use the unfollow and ban block button more than I do. Yes. And maybe that's a lesson for all of us is, if we want these places to be nicer places for us to live, we need to do a better job of curating what we see. And that was a good advice I always got from Father Roderick von Hogen, was that he curates his Facebook list in people he follows, because he doesn't want to see American politics. He's Dutch, doesn't interest him. Doesn't want to see American sports, doesn't interest him. So he very carefully, cultivates that. And there are tools for doing that without unfollowing everyone. But I think I've talked about Facebook Purity extension before, but that might be a future pick of the week if I haven't. So I'll look into that again. All right. So that's enough about that topic. Let's move on to our second topic of the week. It's the other face issue. If you were on Facebook or Twitter last week, you probably saw a lot of people who looked preternaturally older than they actually are, or if you're me, you look younger in your old picture. But there's an app that is around since 2017 that people rediscovered, had an update that can make you look older. You take a picture of yourself, and then it uses the AI and the algorithms and whatnot, and it ages you, and this is what you look like in 10 years or 20 years or whatever. Most people were horrified because some of them looked really bad. And so that went around as they do. And then suddenly people started warning. By the way, the warning said, this company is a Russian company. And you know what that means? It means that the Russians are going to have your picture in your facial
Putin
data.
himself uploaded it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then there was the warning that, the terms of service say that they own your photo now and they can do anything they want with it. And then other people said they're uploading all of your photos from your phone. And we've gotten to the point now where we are having a U.S. Senator, Chuck Schumer, calling for an FBI investigation into FaceApp. So first, Father Grady, have you used the app? Did you download it?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. It just didn't interest me. What am I going to look like when I'm old? Just older than I do now. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I downloaded it. I did the FaceApp thing. I posted it. It was funny. It's got all these filters, and you can buy extra filters and stuff, and that doesn't interest me all that much. But I just thought it was curious, so I did it. Here's let's kind of go through the worries. Did any of this worry either of you, this stuff? Does this sort of thing, do you worry about what apps are doing with your data in general?
I do, but I also am very selective. Like you were saying, Father Roderick curates his the people that he follows and stuff. I curate the apps. So if I'm using something for work, yes, those apps I perfectly vet well before I put them on. If it's just kind of stuff that's around, I might try it depending on how many other people are trying it and what their results are. I almost succumb to downloading the FaceApp, but I just turned 60 and I don't want to know what I look like in 20 years. So to me, it was just not something that I wanted to even, entertain. But to find out that there's a lot of, information leaking from all these things doesn't surprise me at all. I think they came out with one that said, and I can't remember the name of it offhand right now, that one is leaking more information to people than this FaceApp is. So I just try to vet what I use, and that's it. I mean, that's about the best I can do. Look, they've got my info. I have Gmail. They've got my info.
That's the thing. So let's talk first about some general principles. When you download an app, they often ask for permissions. Only give the permissions that it absolutely needs. An app like this needs to have the permission to use the camera, so you give that permission. Does it need your a lot of apps will say, let us look at your address book or your contacts, and then we'll see if any of your friends are on here. Okay, you know what that does? That then gives all of the information about everyone in your address book, their phone numbers, their addresses, potentially birth dates, to that developer. That's unless you're using an app that is a address book app and you trust that app, don't do that in general.
Yep.
I never ever click that because it is not my information to give.
Exactly.
My friends give me my contacts give me their information. Really not mine to give unless I ask them. And I'm not going to ask all of them, do you want me to do this? So they never get it.
Always stop and think before you click OK to all of those permissions requests. Yeah, that's the first thing. Just use your brain. That's your best tool. Do I need to give up this information? Do they need it? I do that for everything, especially like when an app or a website or something wants to log me in using my Facebook account or my Google account.
I hate that.
Yeah, and I always look at what is the information they're asking for, and if I see stuff that, like, if they're looking for my profile or people I'm friends with, I uncheck that. And if they don't let me uncheck it, I don't use it. I won't.
Right.
And one thing I do is I have a Gmail account specifically for this purpose, to log into places. And that's the email account I give them. I don't give them the one I'm using for work or my personal one. I give them basically the dummy one. I always sign in with email. Never on Facebook, never on Google, always email. Yes.
That's a good practice. And that's what I've started doing is the convenience of signing in using your Facebook or Google account is high, but the cost can be high as well. Instead use a good password manager and a good password. So one of the things to know is, this is what I did. I downloaded FaceApp, used it, uploaded it to my Facebook, had a good laugh, and then I deleted the app from my phone. That's it. Once that app is off your phone, it no longer has any access or control over your phone, your camera, your photos, anything. Okay, so it's
gone.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing, people talked about the terms of service, and the terms of service in FaceApp are identical to the terms of service in a lot of other apps in app stores. You just haven't noticed before because you don't read them. Nobody reads them. And while it says we can use your stuff for anything, it doesn't actually give them unlimited rights to your photo or your image. So those are the first 2 points.
That was the big uproar with Facebook and Instagram a few years ago, that their terms of service say the same thing, that if you upload a photo, they have the right to use the photo as they see fit.
Right. And that
was a big uproar a couple of years ago that everybody obviously has forgotten, because they were the same exact terms of service.
And it's lawyer speak. I mean, what they're saying is don't sue us if we use the photo the way the way you expected us to use it in the service.
Yeah. If we made up a commercial and your photo ends up in the commercial, you can't sue us. That's basically what it means. As
part of the service. But I think even then you still you might have grounds to sue if they didn't get your permission. That's the point with these, is it doesn't mean you still can't sue them.
It just means you probably won't be successful.
You may or may not be successful depending on the quality of your lawyer.
But I think people forget that we are in control of our information.
Right.
Everybody is so free to put up, last night's dinner or, all my kids out in my pool. And they forget that you're putting all this information not just for your friends, even though you may have clicked that off, but other people can get access to this. Mm-hmm. So I have friends with children who now have their own children, and they're very careful. They're taking pictures of their kids from the back, not showing faces, and they're doing it purposely because they want to give their kids some privacy. So people need to remember that they're in control of what information they put out there.
Right. And in the church, one thing we've been doing, and we make it part of our annual sign up for religious education, is there is a statement there where the parents can request that and we do it as an opt-out, because we know that most parents aren't going to care. They're going to actually like to see the pictures on Facebook and, send to grandma and everything. But we do have a place where they can initial as an opt-out that then if their kids are in a photo, that photo cannot be used.
Right. You have
it's just that
family situations where, they don't want, whatever, there are family situations.
Whatever reasons why they don't want their kids on Facebook, which I know people who feel that way, that, like you said, taking the pictures so you don't see the kid. There's that privacy.
Right.
So we give them the opportunity to say, no, I don't want this. Okay, not a problem. And we've never had anybody do it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not available to them if they want it.
That's a good point. That's very good. So one of the things that people said was, the Russians, because, okay, let's just back up a second. Just because it's a Russian company does not mean that the successor to the KGB, the FSB, or the GRU, or whoever, the Russian government intelligence agencies, automatically have access to it. Just because it's a Russian company doesn't mean it's a front for Russian spies.
Come on, Dom. Like I said earlier, Putin himself personally uploaded this to the app stores.
Now, the other thing is the Russians now have your facial data. Here's a clue. If your photo is online anywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Google, if it's in a public place, the Russians, the Chinese, and the Martians all have access to your facial data. They don't need you to upload a photo.
And it's probably been run through many facial recognition programs at this point.
Right, and you've walked around in public.
You walk down the street, they have your facial data. You go into the post office, they have your facial data. I'm sorry, you're in facial recognition databases all over the world if you've done anything short of living in middle of nowhere, Montana.
Right. Well, that's why you might want to live in middle of nowhere, Montana.
But even there,
right?
No, I can find some places where I can guarantee you they cannot get facial recognition from you.
Exactly.
There's nothing else out there but cows.
There you go.
In fact, if you go to certain airports and you go through the TSA checkpoint, and most places you have to show your driver's license. Some of them now don't require it because they already have your face from the driver's license database and other places. They know who you are before you get there.
They're using cast-off Xbox Connects.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The TSA bought a whole bunch of them from Microsoft. I just saw the article the other day, and they're using it for that purpose.
Yep. So that part of the scare over FaceApp is not really relevant or real. Another one is this whole thing about they're uploading your entire photo library. Well, you know how big your photo library is on your phone? It would take hours to upload your photo library. And they don't want it. Why would they want your photos of your food? But also, security researchers, after this all came out, they looked at it. They have the tools, and they determined that the app only uploads the photo you select that you want to have the fun stuff done to, and no other photo. That's just clear. They don't have access to the other stuff.
And if you want proof of that, look at your cell data usage. Most people, I hate to say it, most people do not connect to Wi-Fi because we've got good. Like I've got unlimited data, it's unlimited, at 22 gigabytes, they'll slow it down or whatever, but it's unlimited data.
Essentially unlimited.
I'm sorry. My photo library would kill that in about an hour.
Right. Right. So so that's not happening. One thing is it's if you have an iPhone, the iPhone version, that is a bit more locked down. This is the walled garden aspect of it. The lockdown security does protect you in general a little more than Android does. But if you just use good security hygiene, you're protected either way. Just again, don't give permissions that you don't need to. Delete apps when you're not using them if you're just trying them out, that sort of thing. But the fact is in the end, it seems to me this is more tech phobic hysteria perpetrated by media organizations who don't really understand tech, but who really want to get clicks. And they know that this sort of thing gets clicks.
And it includes the continuing story of Russia.
Right, the Red Scare that we want to run up there. Yes. So you're engaging in riskier behaviors every day, and frankly, maybe we're going to talk some more. And this is one of the things we talk about on this show is how to keep ourselves safe online, good security practices, good privacy practices. But if you used FaceApp, you didn't expose yourself to anything that you're not already exposed to online. So no worries about that. As for Chuck Schumer and his FBI investigation, frankly, I think he was misled by one of his staffers or something.
It's political theater. It's flat out political theater.
Right.
It's just he's got to get out there. I'm doing something.
Exactly.
Here's a hint to our congressional officials. Stop doing something. Just stop, please. I don't care what it is. Just stop.
Just do the job you were hired to do.
Right.
Forget about something. Do the job you were hired to do.
Exactly.
Right. All right. So anything else you want to get? Either of you want to say on FaceApp or this sort of privacy security at this time? I mean, I'm sure we'll be coming back to this, but we'll have a bunch of links for you, some good information about this as usual in the show notes. Before we go to our picks of the week, I had something come up that just before we started recording that I thought I'd mention as sort of a tip of the week. My brother's been having trouble connecting with his email on his computer. He's got a Mac, but he hasn't had trouble with his phone or his wife's iPad, just his laptop. And we kind of were doing some troubleshooting over the phone. And here's what I think it is. He has both. He has Comcast as his cable company, and the Comcast modem has Wi-Fi built into it. But he also has a separate router that he uses for Wi-Fi as well. And so both of them are working as Wi-Fi routers. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, might be the crux of the problem. He's turning off one of them. If you have two Wi-Fi radios working at the same time, they will interfere with each other. The way I put it is, it's two people blindfolded in a dark room running around in circles. Eventually, they're going to run into each other. And that's kind of how it works. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, Wi-Fi is radio frequency. It's no different than a radio station. Like, we've all been places where there are two radio stations that are at the same frequency, kind of at the edge of reception of both of them, and you hear them both interfering. It's the same kind of thing. This is different than, like, I've got a dual band Wi-Fi router where it's the 2.4G and the 5G. Those are completely separate frequency ranges. They will not interfere with each other at all. But you can have a neighbor right next door who's on the same frequency.
Yes.
So like frequency 10 of the 2.4G spectrum, that, one of those frequencies. If they're both the same frequency, you're going to have points where you're going to have clashes between the two of them.
And I think that's part of it. So I think the iPads and iPhones, newer ones, are 5G. I think his Mac might be old enough that it's 2.4 gigahertz.
2.4 and sure.
So
okay.
I think that is why. And then I think there might be another router that's either the two routers in the same room, or a neighbor has a new router, perhaps, that might be interfering on those channels. So I suggested to him, turn off the Wi-Fi on one of the two routers. That's just good practice in general. So I said, turn off the one on the cable modem and just use the airport one that he has. And then try connecting the MacBook with a cable when you're sitting at your desk. I mean, it's just faster anyway. A cable will always be faster than over the air. And then if that doesn't solve it, there's some software out there. I use an app on the Mac called Wi-Fi Explorer, and there's a couple others like it that will show me all of the Wi-Fi that my laptop or my computer can see from where it is, and the channels that they're using, and you can kind of see, and the strength of those signals, and you can see, okay, those are same channels. That one's pretty strong. That's probably interfering, and then you can do things like change channels and that sort of stuff. Different routers have different abilities to do that. So that's.
See, I've got some similar Wi-Fi analyzer on Android where it'll actually show you a chart too, where it shows like the frequency strengths. So you can see, because you can have two where they're like channel 4, channel 5. Well, they're right next to each other, and they can interfere with each other if they're both strong signals. But if you move to channel 8, one of them, then all of a sudden your problems go away because now you're not conflicting. It's really cool where it shows you the different curves of the frequencies.
Exactly.
And I don't think people realize how far routers broadcast. I mean, I could leave my house and drive halfway down my street, and I'm still connected to my Wi-Fi in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So think about your neighborhood where you've got all of these Wi-Fi signals overlapping each other.
And in fact, that in itself can be a problem. That the fact that it stays connected. When I use Waze, the driving app, when I start it up in my driveway, it's connected to my Wi-Fi, and then as I drive away, it loses that, and then it suddenly can't tell me. I mean, I know where I'm going at the end of my street usually, but sometimes the app will crash because of that handoff, and it gets confused. So that it's an issue that out there. But so Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi collision, shall we say, is an issue out there. So that's my tip of the week for just checking if you have problems like that with. And his showed up as unable to send an email, but what it really was is sporadically, inconsistently losing his Wi-Fi signal. So sometimes things can take up different forms as well. So excellent. So let's move on to our picks of the week, shall we? Father Corey, why don't we start with you? I think we have a theme from you over the last few weeks.
What, games?
Specifically this franchise.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. So obviously, I am a Nintendo fan and have always been, and grew up with the NES and all that. I know I've done picks of the the NES Mini and the Switch and things like that. Well, Nintendo just recently came out with another free-to-play game, Super Mario World, or Dr. Mario World, excuse me. And it's another one of these, match the three colors, and it takes care of things. But it's the same basic idea of the old Dr. Mario game from Nintendo, from the NES, where you threw the pills in there, and then you could rotate them and get them connected to the germs, and it would kill off the germs. And of course, to go to the next level, you got to kill off all the germs. It is a little bit different. The original was like Tetris, where you start at the top and the pills fell down. This one, they start at the bottom and they float up. And they're more puzzles than they are just random, germs scattered throughout the screen. But it's a lot of fun because it is that puzzle aspect of, okay, you've got these germs, and you got it. If you do it this way, you can get more germs with less pills and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Cool.
The music is kind of updated versions of the classic Dr. Mario music and stuff like that. You can even be Dr. Bowser. You can be different characters from the Super Mario world. So anyways, it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. It is the caveat being it is a free to play game. So like the first round or the first set of levels, you can do, you get unlimited lives, but then once you get to the next level, you only get 5 lives, and you got to wait for those to refill unless you pay money, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All those games are like that, but you know what? That's fine. You take a half an hour, you use all your lives, you set it aside. Tomorrow you come back and do it again.
Very nice. Speaking of games like that, this isn't my pick, but I just want to piggyback on yours. Catholics of Oz, our host Lindsay Sant picked an app recently called Rumble Stars, which is a lot of fun, and I've been playing it. It's a sort of a soccer style little app that uses animals that are anthropomorphized, and it's kind of fun. But we have an SQPN team there, so if you
cool.
download the Rumble Stars game on your phone, and you want to join one of the teams, look for the SQPN team, just for fun.
That's funny.
Yeah. So in fact, I think we should do this for any games where we're playing that has like teams or guilds or clans or anything like that, is we should always have an SQPN, a guild or clan or team or whatever. So, and then just let us know about it. We'll let other people know so they can join in. So, but good pick there, Father Corey. I like that. Joanne, what's your pick of the week?
Well, I've almost got a theme running right now, but that's because it's that time of every 2 years when I start to look at our cable bill and go, can we do any better? Yeah. So, yeah, it's that time. So this time I decided, since I had an extra monitor floating around, I wanted to put an outside an antenna on it and see what I could do over the air. So I picked the Mohu Leaf 30 TV antenna. This is an indoor antenna. You stick it either on the wall or in your window. And of course, they say it is paper thin. Believe it or not, it doesn't feel like it's much bigger than an 8.5 by 11 thickness paper. You can paint it if that's your thing. It is 4K ready, so it's good on TVs that are current. But what I did was I attached it to my wall and put it on the TV, and I picked up, now this might not sound a lot, I picked up 17 very strong channels in the area. Now, the Mohu sells it in 30, 40, and 60, which means those are the mileage away from your house that you can be able to pick things up. So right now I'm picking a lot of Providence stations, local stations. I haven't gotten into the Boston ones yet, but they come in clear, and it's looking to me like this can be an alternative pretty soon to my local cable company, because if the bill keeps going up, I'm about ready to cut the cord. And my TiVo happens to be one where I can attach an antenna to it.
Oh, good.
And pick up over the air. So right now I'm just experimenting on one TV, but if that works and I can convince the husband to put down his remote and, not look for his 300 and some odd channels, this might be a good, and I got it, believe it or not, on Prime Day sale for $16.
Wow.
Right now it's $30, and that's a good price on Amazon. But I figured, hey, $16, that's not a bad deal. So I suggest the Mohu Leaf 30 TV antenna if you're looking to cut the cord.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes, but that's a great pick. You got to make sure you have a tuner in whatever you connect it to, but a TV tuner. But yeah, I've been looking at a lot of this myself over the years, and one of these days I'm going to cut the cord.
And you can buy tuner boxes. So like my TV in my living room is a display. It is not a technical TV because it doesn't have a built-in tuner. But you can buy these little tuner boxes again from Amazon for about $20-$25. They do the job well. If you do need, Discovery and CNN and all those other channels, you can do something like Hulu, DirecTV Now. There's all these different pay services, YouTube TV, things like that.
Sling TV is another. Sling TV, DirecTV Now, all those will. They're different prices, but again, watch it when you start to put them together because it almost can look like your cable bill.
Right. Yeah, and that's just it. It's like, but if you pick one, you may be able to find one that has 90% of the channels you like for cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't find everything on one service. There's no way.
Yeah. There's a box that I've been looking at called the Home Run TV Tuner, I think it is. That
I've heard of that.
That it does it's an HDTV tuner, but it also can connect to your computer, and you can potentially save stuff to like Plex and that sort of stuff. So there's stuff out there you can. Oh, there's always gadgets you can buy to feed that habit. But that's a good one. Yeah, for those of us, by the way, who are over the age of about 40, 17 channels sounds like plenty to me.
Yeah. Well,
it used to, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Well, of course, what's funny here is that's what I've done is I don't have one of these antennas. I've got a different one that's actually mounted up on my roof, and it picks up 13, but a lot of them are duplicates because they're things that there's like a Western channel, there's kind of a sitcom channel, and they're repeats from other locations. Okay. So it's not impressive, but you get the big four.
All right.
You can get the
Yeah, see, I haven't gotten into that yet because I need a stronger antenna to do that.
So my pick this week is related to my vacation last week. I mentioned we went to Gettysburg with the family to the battlefield there in the National Military Park, and it's really interesting. You basically it's a place you drive around, and it has all of the sites of the battle are there, and there's monuments everywhere, and it could be very confusing. But one of the things that they've done is they have an auto tour where you could drive around, and you could hire a guide who gets in your car and drives around with you. That's a little expensive, not too bad, but it's one way. You could also get a bus. You have a bus with a guide. But we opted to do the cheap way because that's the way we do things. At the gift shop, they sell the Gettysburg Auto Tour Field Guide, and it comes with both an app and a CD that contains audio. And one of the nice things about it is that you have this guide who it tells you the tour, is an audio tour. It says, okay, start in the parking lot, tells you some stuff. Okay, now pause it till you get to stop 1. And then you go, and you listen to that, and he goes on and on through it. And which it was really great. It was the best, $25, I think $30 I spent all week because it really gave us an overview of the whole battlefield, which is awesome. But I have a caveat on that, which is the app. There's an app for Android and for iPhone that you can get, and the app would be nice because it gives you the GPS, so you just follow the GPS knows where you are and automatically plays from the location you're at. I could not get the app to work. I could not get it to download the tour to my phone. You download the app, you give it a code, and then it's supposed to download the tour. I could not get it to work. It drove me crazy. And I thought maybe it's because I'm not on my home Wi-Fi. I'm on cell phone. Maybe that's it. I get home, it still doesn't work. So I don't know what the deal is with that. So ignore the app. But the CD was perfectly fine. And as far as the driving from spot to spot, it can be a little confusing. The maps that they give you kind of wind all over the place. But what I found is if you have Waze, the GPS app, the navigation app, it has all of the points of interest from the battlefield, and I'm sure from other national parks as in it. So what I would do is I'd say, okay, Auto Tour 1 or Auto Tour Stop 1, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, would come up as the first one. So I drive to that. Okay, go to Auto Tour 2, 3. And then if they went off from the Auto Tour, there was there's a part of the battlefield called Devil's Den, which is not on the Auto Tour, the regular Auto Tour. But they said, go to Devil's Den. So I just entered Devil's Den. Takes me right there. So a couple of tips and a pick. Buy the field guide in the bookstore, or if you follow our link, it's actually like $10 cheaper directly from them. If you know you're going to be going to Gettysburg, you can get even cheaper. So don't use the app. Use the CD player, especially if you have a CD player in your car, or get it at home and rip the CD onto your phone. That might be another way of doing it. So
you could just play one track at a time versus having to try to pause your car's stereo.
Exactly. That's also can be an issue. Once we figured out our car's CD stereo controls, because we never used the CD player of the car. So don't use the app. Use the CD even if you have to rip it, and use Waze to figure out how to get around the park. And they have field guides for many places, many attractions, many national parks, and other things. So that guide comes from a company called Travel Brains. So that was my pick of the week. So before we finish up, I do have a little bit of feedback from some listeners on our last show. People really liked our show that we did on tech for bookworms. So I just want to read some of the feedback. Marika Donders, who's a friend of SQPN, longtime listener, she said she loves her Kindle Paperwhite and also loves the fact that she can borrow library books from the New York Public Library since, as she says, I am a resident of New York State. Also, you can download books from formed.org if your parish subscribes. Father Corey, I know you've picked Formed in the past.
Yes.
As a pick of the week.
Excellent Catholic resource.
Right. They have a lot of great Catholic resources, including books and other stuff. So that was good. Thank you, Marika. Mark Carey says, I usually purchase the ebook on my Kindle for iPad if I feel it needs to survive the inevitable electromagnetic pulse attack, which we see in apocalyptic movies all the time. He says, I'll purchase the physical book. The exception to my rule is anything by Jimmy Akin. I purchase both right out of the gate. This way I can give away the physical copy to someone and most likely repurchase it. I got to support my peeps, he says. And yes, I agree. Buy everything by Jimmy.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
And he did not pay us as co-hosts of The Secrets of Star Trek and Secrets of Doctor Who to say that.
Yes, and if you like that, you can also listen to Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World podcast I did with him. We have some great stuff there too. So, and now that I've plugged everything, and then one last message. This one's from Diane Korzeniewski. Sorry, Diane. I'm no good with Polish names. Sorry. She said, I was never a reader until I got my first Kindle. I've had several, and my favorite now is my Kindle Paperwhite. So thank you, Diane. Yes, same here. I mean, I was a reader, but the Kindle really has upped my game recently. And then, I'm sorry, I had one last email. This was the last email, was from John Scrivo, who sent an email. I had read a few years back that some studies suggested that people who read physical books had better retention than those who read ebooks. It seems, however, that those studies are not conclusive. That's my guess. Well, he has a link. I'll put that in the show notes. But I think I agree. I think it depends on the person. And then he said, do most listeners know the airplane mode trick to keep Overdrive books longer? Overdrive is the library system. You can borrow ebooks from your library. He says, my library only gives 14 days, and I can't ever finish the books in time without switching on airplane mode on my Kindle. So he switches on airplane mode, therefore on the Kindle, and therefore it won't delete it.
It can't dial back to the main servers and say, oh, you've had this too long, time to cut it off.
Right. So it's an interesting trick. I'm not sure. I think it's probably kosher. Let's say it's kosher. And then
thanks for the tip.
Yeah, exactly. He says, one of my favorite things about e-readers like the Paperwhite is being able to read in bed at night with the lights off, which my wife appreciates. Yes, that is actually really good. It has the built-in backlight. And then he says, I like Amazon's idea of letting someone purchase the ebook for a few bucks if they purchase the paper version through Amazon. This would be convenient for people who like paper but also don't want to carry a lot of books when they read. Amazon has a program called Matchbook, where if you've purchased the paper book from them, if the publisher participates, and that's a caveat, you can then buy the ebook for a very low additional cost. But I found that most of the books I've purchased were not available through Matchbook.
No. And that's something publishers need to recognize. Of first of all, this gets you a little bit more. It's better to get a little more money for a second copy via ebook than it is no money, because you give me the choice of say $2 or $3, $4 maybe after I've bought this $20 book, I'll spend that.
Yeah.
But if I have to spend another $10 for the e-copy of that, nah.
I'm not going to do that.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. If you give me a deal, I'll do it. So you could get a few bucks, but you're not getting it all. And then finally he says, I still like children's books on paper. I don't want to use the device for bedtime stories. It's also really nice to be able to donate them or pass them on to friends or grandkids. I agree. Actually, we still do all children's paper books. Just it's even though they get destroyed, they still there's still something good about that.
It's easier to destroy a $10 children's book than it is a $100 Kindle. So
exactly. Although my son has been reading an ebook on an iPad every night lately because we only had the book in Kindle version, and so we've had to be monitoring that and being careful. Okay, here it is. This is the only thing you open on this in this iPad. If you open anything else, if you start playing a game in bed, you will not get a chance to read this at all in bed every night. So we have to be careful with that one. But he's been good about it. I've double checked, and he's been good about it. All right. So that's our feedback. Thank you so much, everyone, for your feedback. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Technology, including this week, Ninth Hour Design, Alfredo B., Joe T., Kenny D., and Aaron B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows we do at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. What do you think of our discussion of Facebook's censorship of St. Augustine or the FaceApp freakout that everyone had? Let us know by visiting sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can leave comments there or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And like I said, we'll have relevant links for everything in our discussions on our show notes at sqpn.com. Until next time, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me in sharing the Secrets of Technology.
Yeah, glad to be here, and thanks, Dom.
And Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Pleasure and honor as always.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.